20 in the Ashanti region. Dr. Stephen Amoah. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. I miss you small.
Yeah.
With your naughtiness.
But I hope everything is fine.
Oh, but once there's life, I mean, I'm doing well by the grace of God, so I'm very well. Thank you.
And what's it like at the ministry? You know, since you took over as Deputy Minister for Trade, what's it been like? How's the work been going?
Everything is fine. Everything. I'm coping.
It is well. Thank you for joining us in the studio this morning.
It's a pleasure for inviting me.
Yes. Also in the studio is the Member of Parliament for the Cape Coast South constituency. He served as Deputy Finance Minister before as well. The Honorable GHOne is here in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
How was the weekend?
Not bad. That's a few things to do.
I see. So, did you visit the constituency over the weekend?
I had an unfortunate incident on my way. Got into some slight accident.
Wow.
So, sorry.
Vehicle accident?
Yes.
Ooh.
Somebody just smashed into.
Well, we thank God that you were not hurt.
At least.
Was anybody hurt?
No, everybody.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Were you in the car?
Yes.
Have you been to the hospital?
No, I haven't been.
But that's wrong. I beg you. At least after here, please go.
Oh, I'll take your advice.
I beg you. I've seen that before. Please go. So you feel like you are not hurt. And later on, it could be very fatal.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
A few lab checks.
Yeah.
We do.
Just to make sure that you're okay.
Good advice.
Just to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Your health is very important.
Definitely.
The people of Cape Coast need you.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, so
absolutely.
Make sure that you take Dr. Amoah's advice.
Yeah,
but let's get into the issue, shall we? The State of the Nation address we know was presented by the President last week, and after the President delivered the State of the Nation address, a lot of commentary has come the way of the address, and I know that in Parliament you started debating the State of the Nation address. And we want to start, from there. I mean, from your point of view, Honorable GHOne. What are the key takeaways from the State of the Nation address, and especially as the debate is going on the floor of the House? What are the issues in there for you that you're really focusing on?
Thank you very much, and good morning to my brother, and good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers, those who are watching us, and good morning to the good people of Cape Coast. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I haven't been here for a while.
Yes.
So it's always nice to be invited, and always nice to meet my brother on the radio and TV circuit. The President's State of the Nation. Well, it's a constitutional mandate that the President, at the beginning or so of every year, should come to give us an account of the state of our nation. So he basically came in to do his work. Now, I expected more than I got. And at some stage, I was a bit confused which country I was in and which SONA address I was listening to, because the two were not the same. The reality on the ground, the real economy, the challenges that this country is facing, the hardships, were not things that were adequately addressed. The IMF program that we're on, I think some statistics or something was done about the critical words and the number of times he used them or did not use them. I mean, I think IMF was 4 times or something like that. I mean, I was not expecting the President to come and read the budget. But having gone to the IMF and being where we are at the moment, and this, I think, is the last but one of the President's Nation's address.
Yes.
I was expecting the President to tell us exactly where we are with the IMF at the moment. I know we've got the finance minister when you read the budget. We've also got Dr. Baumia, but that was more on campaigning. He's actually campaigning to succeed his boss. So I was expecting the president. to basically tell us where we are and where we are going.
Did he not?
No. And even under the circumstance that we are in at the moment, I was even expecting the president to render some apologies to the Ghanaian people.
Apologize for what exactly?
For basically the disastrous economy that we sit in at the moment, with all varied excuses having given to us, and none of them actually holds water. And we know that it's as a result of mismanagement, it's as a result of corruption, it's as a result of wasteful expenditure, frivolous expenditure, not ready to cut expenditure, predicting revenues that we can't realize, borrowing too much, cutting taxes. When they came in, the first thing they did was, we are cutting nuisance taxes. Now, as you did mention, I have had the opportunity to work at a finance ministry before. Every taxes that you raise is supposed to address some expenditure items. Whether they are good taxes, bad taxes, or whatever, you have raised them for a purpose. So if I come in tomorrow and say that these taxes are nuisance, I must have something to replace that, to be able to meet that expenditure. Otherwise, those taxes have taken off the table. I will not have money to fund whatever those taxes were funding. The only thing you can do then is to borrow to fund those expenditure if you've taken the revenues off the table. So that started the borrowing spree. And then it snowballs as you borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow. Because you are also expanding your expenditure. Every year, you are appointing more ministers than you need. According to the president, he needed all those, ministers. Look, the whole address, if I should be philosophical about it, that probably will put it in perspective. It's like a general who is going to a battle. Not a war is bigger. A battle with his troops. Basically failed, lost the war, and then looked at the troops around him about to be captured. Then he thinks, I want to go down as a hero. So now he's going to fall on his sword. He knows that within the next hour or something he'll be dead. But he tries to rally the troops and say that, look, let's fight on. I'm going to be with you till the end and all that. After that, he falls on his sword and died. And he wants to be a hero. And you can say, oh, just general, basically took the bull by the horn. And then his second in command, who was in this mess with him all these years and was an architect in terms of the economy, in destroying the economy, he tried to insulate him and take everything on his chest as the general hero that he wants to be. But he knows he's on his way out. He's falling on his sword shortly. I mean, I'm not talking about, the president, anything happening to him. But obviously...
You're talking about him exiting office.
Yes, this is what they call the lame duck president. And he basically did not inspire anyone. He came, as usual, boasting about, we are better than you, we've done better than you, I'm the best president in the Fourth Republic, this, that, numbers, even when the numbers don't stack up.
But considering, the challenges that the country has had to go through, has he not done well? I mean, and of course, I know that in the State of the Nation address, you heard him, talk about, the domestic debt exchange program. You heard him even mention the IMF program that we've had to undergo because of all, the issues that we've had to face as a country. I mean, he went on to talk about, on record, being able to pay out, the largest amount of, bond payments, among other things. So there are some successes that are being talked here and there that the president alluded to in the State of the Nation address.
It's basically an uninformed statement for the president to make. And because I owe you money, okay, as a result of buying bonds from me and coupon and I'm not paying, I'm giving you haircut here and there. Pensioners are picketing at the Ministry of Finance of non-payment of their coupons and all that. Then eventually when you get around to pay the coupons, when some of them have probably been passed on as a result of not getting money for their medications and other things. You come and say that you have paid the largest, you've made the largest coupon payment ever on the surface of this continent. And you want people to applaud for their arrears you haven't paid them.
Well, but that shows that government is committed to making sure that nobody loses their money.
Well, I'm telling you, people have lost their lives and other things as a result of this. So you start with an apology and say, look, things were difficult, but we always had you in mind and we're trying to get things to sort you out. After having been on the IMF program, we have been able to create some fiscal space. And for that matter, we are made such payment, to you. And we promise you that maybe things are not going to be as bad as, going forward. And that your payment will be done promptly. You don't come and boast about it because this is not an achievement. The president's wishes are achievement to him. What he intends to do are achievement to him. Anything he does, positive or negative, is an achievement. He and Dr. Bawumia. And that is where they have brought us. The economic indicators that look, you said we have been through difficult times. Nobody is doubting that. We had COVID, Russia-Ukraine war, which they talk about.
Yeah.
It looks as if we were affected by the Russia-Ukraine war more than even the what is it called? The Russians or the other party.
The Ukrainians.
The Ukrainians.
But we're affected by it in some way.
Well, all countries.
Supply chain lines, were disrupted,
absolutely,
among other things.
So why is it that the countries around us are doing better than us? Why is it that we were all affected by the same thing, but the degree with which we are coming out of ours differs from others? It shows you clearly that before this COVID and Russia-Ukraine war came in, this country was on life support machine. There were figures being churned out here and there. Ghana is doing well. But it turned out that when the test of whether you are doing well or not came, we failed the test because we were not adequately prepared. This country's fundamentals were not good. We are being painted a picture that does not exist. The real economy is suffering. Whatever you see at the moment, they are telling you that they've turned a corner, and we haven't turned any corner. We have not turned a corner. When you turn a corner, it must be a complete. But if you see a little sign that, things are beginning to look upward, you said you've turned a corner. We haven't.
Well, things are beginning to look up.
Well, if you take inflation to 54.
the macroeconomic indicators are beginning to look good.
How good are they? The macroeconomic indicators, the growth that we predicted to be around 4. In 3 quarters, we got 2.8. How better are things, my brother? Inflation was at 54%. Mm-hmm. It's now at 23.5. It's still high. Extremely high.
But it's a significant drop, you agree?
Well, that is also the interesting thing. Why is it that we have had this significant drop that we've been told, but yet interest rate is so high? There is a relationship, economic and finance relationship, between interest rate and inflation. Mm. And as the mathematicians will tell you, it's directly proportional. So if you have inflation dropping that much, you would expect to see the same on the banking side. Now, why is it that the banks are not able to lower their rate and they're hovering around 35%? Because there is a systemic risk problem within the banking sector itself as a result of the legacy from this collapse of banks. Nobody, no foreign investor, no investor in their right sense wants to put their money in banking. Nobody wants to even start as an entrepreneur to open a bank, because all the indigenous people who tried to open a bank and were doing a good job at it but had some challenges, they collapsed them without looking at how they can, we have put banks together that are too large to fail, and they are not functioning. But they are too large to fail because of what we have created. We still have government that owes the bank significant amount of money, the SLS and all that, which this government diverted the ASLA that we had set up and to go and collateralize it to collect money to do something else instead of paying, the energy sector and all that. All these things, of course, there's some impairment, with the banks with their own, lending activities. But the bulk of the challenge that the bank has, that's why interest rates are not going down, unless, of course, the data we are receiving in inflation is not the correct data. But these are done by professionals.
Yes.
That's the Ghana
Statistical Service. Yes.
But if really, inflation has dropped that much, you would want to see some significant drop also in interest rate, unless, of course, there are some risk that the banks don't have any mitigation for. So, and for that reason, they have to keep.
So, for what you see, I mean, you're saying the president did not paint the accurate picture as far as the economy is concerned when he was delivering the State of the Nation.
Inflation has dropped quite significantly. But food inflation is still high.
Yeah.
Do you feel the inflation in your drop in your pocket?
Well,
absolutely not.
That's a question for the Ghanaian to answer. Let me bring in Dr. Stephen.
You're a Ghanaian.
Yes, I am a Ghanaian, but let me bring in Dr. Amwa in at this time. Doc, I mean, you have said before, Doc, that the NPP are better managers of the economy more than the NDC. Do you see that showing in how the president painted a picture, especially of how the economy is when he delivered the State of the Nation address?
Thank you very much. My humble regards to our viewers and listeners this very morning, especially in shares of constituents. I thank them very well and very much for giving me the second note. I am trying to work on something personally, and I've started this a few months ago. I'm trying hard. I know it's not going to be easy. I'm trying to position myself in a way that there will be a new shift from the way MPP, NDC, especially in Parliament, and we, the active players, have been demonstrating that it's all about power. And the status quo has not worked for us as a country. What I mean is that when issues come up, we always want to politicize it because we want power. Maybe MPP want to stay in power, NDC they want to come to power. Of course, I want us to stay in power. But we've been doing this for about 30 years. Let's ask ourselves, has it worked? Almost, you see this morning, my senior brother that I respect most, see the things he's talking about. You see that it's not him, because I know him.
It's not him?
No, not at all.
How is it not him? I mean,
because he wants power, and if he doesn't go this way, maybe the party will say that, oh, you are too neutral, you are too objective. Sometimes they do that to me, and I've suffered a lot. Even sometimes people pick just extract of what I say internally, and they go and show it elsewhere, and I attract the displeasure of other people. I mean, top people. They change even the story. But that is me. Only God knows the heart I have. Everything he's raising now, he knows technically there couldn't have been better approach. I'm not saying this government is perfect, but talking about some of the issues such as the president never presented the economy. It's interesting. The president even was so humble and said that, yes, we were down. But it's not like we were down, but we are kind of getting up. And that he, even as a leader, takes the blame for the ups and downs, his part as a leader. I even found the president being overly humble with that issue because it is a fact that this country, fundamentally, we have challenges for almost 30, 40 years. It doesn't matter who is in government. And one of the major reasons is the fact that we are depending on other economies. Not until Ghana will be able to be honest with ourselves, especially the two leading political parties, and design a new convergence, point of convergence, and redefine our corporate focus and say that enough of all the propaganda that we do with taxes, fuel, unemployment, industries, and all the communities. We should forget. It doesn't matter who is in government. And I am expecting the media and other stakeholder individuals and groups to join what I'm talking about. That look at the issues NDC they are raising. Are they not the same issues we are raising? Well, they not the same issues when former President Kufuor, His Excellency, was the NDC they were raising. Is it not the same? Are they not the same issues that when former President late Rollins, may he so rest in peace, His Excellency was there? Are they not the same issues? So can Ghanaians sit there and say, so what is it? That every day, when NDC guys, they want to increase taxes, what happened? When MPP guys, they want to increase taxes, what happened? So what is the right way that as a country, we can move on? The president even went to the extent of stating some of the primary macro indicators to indicate that, yes, we've turned the corner. As the finance minister said, inflation rate was 54.1. It's now about 23.4.
Yeah.
He's saying that, it's too extremely high. But even MPP inherited 15.7. Their time, as if 15.4 or 7. Yeah. That time, we had not gone through a long period of impaired productivity. I don't think in the history of this country, I stand to be corrected, there have been a time that Ghanaians have been asked to stay home, but they were paid. Yeah, we have never gone through that situation before. That our revenue shortfall went to about 12 billion. The private sector, which is the engine of our economy and growth, had to sack over 40,000 people. The payee corporate taxes went down so low. So government, he knows what, because we are all in the same field. He knows that two arms that government broadly or generally finance our activities, our programs and projects. You talk of debt financing, borrowing. Then you talk of revenue generation. So when your revenue generation is affected because of the impaired productivity uncontrollably, which is a fact, what happens? You'll be forced to borrowing more because there are statutory demands. There are things you can't do. If you are not going to work because of natural disaster, and then your kid is sick, what will you do? Your kid needs food, what will you do? Do you let the child die? And that's why the president said that the economy can be adjusted or refixed, but we cannot reverse people who are dead. What I can say that we all have to talk about is that as a country, we have inherent, unfortunate, fundamental anomalies, whether party A or B, that this time let's look at and solve. Let's all be honest with ourselves.
But it's not what it's not what government is supposed to do, like you mentioned, and your party is in government, and that's what. But the government is
trying to do that. Yeah. But look at the position of the NDC. I'm coming here. Look at the position of the NDC.
Why are we where we are?
But where are we? And I told you that we have uncertainties in life. He said the economy was on life support.
Yes.
How could he have said that? Honestly, between for the 3 years preceding the COVID, we're growing 7%. If that was bad or not true, then 54.1, that one day he agrees. Our inflation rate has been consistently, averagely 7%. Things were doing so much well, honestly. So I don't know what he was talking about. When figures are good,
we seem to have been
now he's saying
harder than our neighbors in terms of
which of the
these
neighbors?
External factors.
So all our
our
neighbors are doing the same free SHS. They are doing the same FKIP. They have the same issues. In fact, Burkina Faso, Togo, Ivory Coast, they are the closest neighbors.
Yeah.
They don't even, when I say people advise me that, because of diplomatic issue, but I don't think I've insulted anyone. It's a fact. They don't even have Central Bank of Ghana that we have to make their own discretionary economic policies. They are integrated in the economy of France. So even their primary macro indicators are those detected by the France central government. This is how can you compare the two? So we will be in the best position to compare Ghana to continental and then the global performances. You understand what I'm saying? By doing that, you reduce standard deviation. Then you integrate other risk factors by the average. This is how we do things technically. Do we always have to keep on lying? No, sorry, not lying. Doing politics, and because of politics, we want to deceive Ghanaians. Look, my brother made one point, and it's not about politics, which was true. And it's not about NDC and PP. It's about Ghana as a whole. That if inflation rate is going down, one would have expected the interest rate will go down.
Yeah.
It pains me sometimes that when some of us come out with things that will help this country, Ghana, in my opinion, is basically about the messenger, not the message. And it's one of the things we should look at. I started this advocacy a few years back. In fact, it was a major part of my PhD work. That one of the major technical problems in our country fundamentally, which has got nothing to do with a particular government, is cross-sectional. Is the fact that governments, let me add, because they will go and change it now and say I'm castigating my government, borrow many a time on our domestic market at a higher rate than the private sector. So what it means is that risk-free assets that are supposed to be giving us less returns are giving us more returns than private sector. So what it means is that the banks are always investing in government assets. What it means is that the private sector, generally, they don't get the funds they are supposed to, adequate funds. What it means is that the limited funds that the banks will give to the private sector in Ghana here are at double-digit interest rate. Yeah. So I describe it as double-digit interest rate economy. And it's making the banks even more profiteering. Let me tell you.
Because the banks are not interested in...
Let me tell you, all over the world, the formulas that we use to calculate returns from investment in risky assets from the banks and other things, they don't work in Ghana here. From 1965, we have Sharp. In the 70s, we had APT by Cross. In the 90s, we had two people developing the formula, Hanan and Lian. In the, I think, getting to the 20s, we have Deming. Then I did 2021, marked by Canadian and Pakistani and Ghanaian professors, led by Professor Adibanji, a Nigerian professor in K University. The problem is that because of that situation, the private sector in Ghana here, they don't get enough funds to run their business. So they can't expand to employ people. 2, they cannot produce to meet aggregate demand. The things we need, they cannot. 3, we are forced to import from outside. 4, our currency will always be very weak because we import. These are serious issues. And it's so straightforward. I've spoken in Parliament. I did a national conference, National Theatre here, supported by Bank of Ghana and others. I did the second one, UPS. I'll do the third one this year. This is a fact. But you have a country that we can identify all our problems, but we cannot solve them.
But is that not the reason why people like you
No, what I'm saying is
are in government
some of these issues
to help deal with the issues?
Don't push me, okay? So that if I get your point, you're not wrong. So that it becomes like me and my government. I'm talking about a national issue.
The national issue.
So what I'm saying
governments over the years have not been able to deal with these things.
But what I'm saying, you know what I'm talking about. Even the media is included in the problem. Are they ready to push such good things? Or they are ready to push fake extract propaganda? They turn stories, they change stories. Look, there's this fake thing people talk. Oh, when you're opposition, you were crying. Now you're in government. It's even fake. But you see how people quickly even talk about that. And look at the good things somebody like me has been saying for almost 20 years. That my brother here has been saying. That maybe Nanado Dankwa has been, maybe former President Mahama has been saying. Do we project them? So what I'm saying is that fundamentally, there are problems. A country that depends on the globe, that the global inflation rate post-COVID was hovering around 300%, that we buy from them. Supply chain, things were importing into Ghana. Item that was $4,000 went to $12,000. These are problematic issues, problems that, let's be honest with ourselves. So now if the inflation rate is turning, the same His Excellency Vice President that you are castigating, is he not the one that helped us so much as a country to have rubbed shoulders with the global giants when it comes to digitization? Now we have turning around time, highly reduced. Go to NHI, go to passport office, go to GRA and other places.
Right.
Wasn't he the same vice president that the first 3 years the economy was doing so much? If you want to say he is now causing this one, and now we want to say that he has no knowledge in even what we are doing, and that everything is about him. What I'm trying to say is that I think the problems of Ghana, we haven't resolved them or solved them 100%. I don't think they were solved before Nana Addo came. Those fundamentals were there. The problems were there. If we want to build this country, let us redefine a new paradigm shift. Let us redefine our corporate focus. We can argue and debate, but NPP and DC, for once, should come together and select certain common issues and say that, look, whether NDC or NPP, these are issues of national concern.
Right.
The last thing I want to say is about this controversy over taxes. It's one of the things, if we don't resolve them and we keep on listening to NPP and NDC, because one is in power, one is in opposition, Ghanaians will continue to suffer. Because tax policies are calibrated in nature and depends on the state or the fiscal space. NDC increased and introduced tax items between 2014 and 2016, about 26. I used to condemn them. I don't want to condemn them again. Honestly, whether they were wrong or right, I need to understand the fiscal space at that time first. Did we have to generate money internally and reduce borrowing so that we put this country in good, healthy situation? Nana Addo reduced taxes about 17 and even took some away entirely 2017 and started increasing taxes, including e-levy and co.
Yes.
Did we need that or not? Just like you are not well, you go and see a medical doctor after diagnosis. Oh, my brother needs, Lantern needs medicine. It might be better, but he'll be well. Oh no, this medicine we have to withdraw. The same way we manage the economy. But now, oh, the average man, ordinary man doesn't want. You are increasing taxes. You are doing this. I beg Ghanaians. I beg Ghanaians. I beg them once and for all. Unless we want Ghana to go on like this forever. You can't eat your cake and have it. Managing the economy, there are diagnoses, there are rules, policies, procedures. There are people whose work, like my brother here, because he's very good, he understands them. I do. But sometimes because of all of us, including me, because of intellectual dishonesty, because of politics, we don't want to speak the truth.
Right.
Can we stop at a point
Let me bring
and then help Ghanaians, offer them the services and the utility that they need? I think that is my position.
Back into the conversation. I mean, Dr. Amwa here has said a lot. And I saw you looking into your notes and writing a few things down.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to just a few things and then make a couple of points. You know, I like my brother a lot. He makes quite an intellectual, argument and offers some solutions. Unfortunately, he was probably brought into the game too late. One of the things we're talking about, there are structural challenges in this economy. Structural challenges, and he's right. The point we're trying to make now is that it's been exacerbated by policy choices of this government. And even where policies were good, poor implementation of policies. And we don't have the time to take them one by one to tell you which ones were poor policies and which ones were good policies but poorly implemented. I think I can highlight free education as one of them. Good policy, poorly implemented. I can talk about planting for food and jobs. Good policy, poorly implemented. One district, one factory that it's falling on his lap now. I'm not sure they started with the secretariat managing it. I think now it's come to the ministry. I mean, industrialization policy has been something that all governments been trying to do it in one form or another. Don't forget, I also served in his position, apart from being a deputy minister of finance, I served in his position as a deputy minister of trade. We had an industrialization policy and how we were pursuing it. They came in and said, okay, this thing should be handled by the private sector. But you have to give a good reason, or a businessman who wants to invest money in building a factory in the one district, one factory, will have a good reason to come and build a factory in my district. If it doesn't make business and economic sense, they won't. If you give them an incentive, they're going to use something else with the incentives. Now, what we have done is basically make it difficult for government to get money by coming up with all these exemptions. Though we have passed an exemption law, exemptions are still being given in the area of one district, one factory. He can probably tell us the current status. That the money that we need to be able to fund things are being, doled out this way. Now, it's right that we need to look at this tax situation, because you can't get, probably they should have taken you to the Ministry of Finance as the deputy minister when they came in. Because you've got to understand that you raise taxes to fund your expenditure. This is basic economics. If you're doing it's similar to a balance sheet, but it's a government one. If you are not able to raise enough revenue to fund your expenditure, the only way you can fund your expenditure is to borrow. That is what they call deficit. So if you come and there are some taxes, tax revenues, that give you money to fund expenditure items, and you say that these are nuisance taxes, so I'm going to cut them. Don't forget that on the other side of the balance sheet, there are expenditure items that needs to be funded. Therefore, if you are going to keep those items, unless you cut them too, if you are going to keep those items, the only way you can fund them is to go and borrow. Because accumulation of deficit itself is the money you're going to borrow, and accumulation of it in the last 7 years, that is what has created almost 600 billion or 600 billion plus of debt to us at the moment. The other thing he talked about, which is also true, is that apart from the issue that I mentioned, why the banks are not able to reduce their interest rate, and I did explain that. I don't want to go back to it again. But one other thing, which I did mention, is that government itself owes the banks that it hasn't paid. Quite apart from that, government needs money because of this same borrowing, and even more so now that we cannot go to the international market. The borrowing domestically is intensifying, because the only way government can get loans to fund things, if it's not coming from the multilateral, which is the IMF, and at the back of the IMF we have the World Bank, African Development Bank, and what have you, to support, the money will have to come from home. And yes, he's right. If the money is coming from home, the government is going to do what is called crowding out the private sector. And that's what he said. That means that government is prepared to pay any amount of money in terms of treasury to be able to get the loans, to bank to give the loans. This has made the banks lazy. They don't have to do anything. If government wants money, we'll give money. And government, until recently, is supposed to be, a risk-free. Therefore, if you give money to government, you are 100% likely to get it. Until this haircut and other things started, that people have become a bit cautious. So that issue is also there. But that can only stop if government stops borrowing, doesn't do this knee-jerk action, I'm cutting tax. Now, they have loaded in more tax in this economy than the ones they cut. Now, the economy we live in is actually a tax economy.
But don't the times call for it?
Well, if the times...
Because we fundamentally,
so you don't
over the years, have not been able to deal with the structural issues of the economy. I mean, governments past and present. So, I think that's the point that Dr. Amwa is making.
But you don't come...
governments have come and gone and have not been able to deal with the structural issues of the economy. That is why we continue in this cycle,
all
taxes and borrowing and taxes and borrowing.
Yes, you can say we never had COVID before, at least in our time. You can say Russia-Ukraine war. There had been wars in the past. There are other disruptions. Running a country is about what hits you, not your fancy, what is it called, manifesto things that you have lined up, and then you come and mention them and claim them to be success. When you are running an economy, things hit you. You get a disruption of the West African gas pipeline, which happened to us. Mm-hmm. You come and find a lack of investment in the energy sector, which happened to us and led to doom so. And we had to deal with it.
Yeah.
So if you have a proper plan, a proper program, you will be able to deal with issues better than just throwing things around. You come and then you meet, I don't think he would have done that. Unless he tells me he would have done that. You don't come and say, meet taxes and say, these are nuisance taxes. Before you make that statement, you've got to get a replacement revenue to be able to fund that expenditure. Because you know that the only direction you'll be going is to go and borrow. We've been borrowing to fix roads. Yet revenue that we were getting from road tolls and all that, these are taxes. That could have given us money to at least, even if not all, to solve some of the road problems, the patching up of the road. One day, a Minister of Finance announced that this is the intention.
Because there was an anticipation of, a certain source of revenue,
well,
which was projected to give us so much.
Anticipation.
Yes.
You've got to anticipate against your anticipation. That's what running the government is about. Because anything, that's what I'm saying that.
The issue with that has been,
running a government.
Your side put that revenue measure, it wasn't implemented early enough and properly. There was a lot of disaffection for it. And as a result, we're not getting what we need to get from it.
We thought it wouldn't amount to anything. If you say some taxes were nuisance, e-levy was more nuisance than anything I can think of. So if you could get rid of those, and now you are coming to impose a much harsher, taxes than the one you've taken off the books, then you have been dishonest with the country. Look at the taxes that are being imposed now. The taxes in the last budget were actually hidden. You have to actually go, it's like a hide and seek. You have to go and look for these taxes. And then when we started the debate and we said there were taxes, they said, show us the taxes. And we said, we will show you. Eventually, what happened? All the VAT and all those that came out. We are now a tax economy, this economy. They said they were moving us from taxation to production. We are worse in taxation. Now, this country, what is killing us is debt and taxes. That's what is swallowing us. Right. And if something, I just responded to, let me just make this point.
Yeah, just make this point in 2 minutes. Let me come back to Dr. Anwar.
If you look at something I've been observing, I did go back to look at 2017, NDC time, throughout the NDC period, all the revenues, I'm talking about the realized revenues, because in the budget, we will have projections and then we will revise it depending on what is happening. And then also we will end up having the actual revenue. I went through all the budget from the NDC time to present day, and the findings were shocking. This government, let me just give you some numbers here, and then I will end there. This government, they came to power in 2017, right? Mm-hmm. In 2017, all the monies that they have collected, all the revenue, and I'm talking about total revenue, each year, total revenue, if you go to the appendices of all the budget, you have your total revenue and grants. That is what we call our total revenue, because that's the receipt that the government gets. Throughout 2017 to end of last year, I didn't add this year, this government has received 505 billion Ghana cedis. This is the money that has come into this government's hand, 505 billion.
In terms of taxes.
In terms of
grants,
taxes. Oh, yes.
Money is borrowed.
They are all taxed.
Everything.
No borrowing. We haven't added borrowing. I'm just talking about revenue.
Revenue, taxes.
Yeah, taxes.
And grants.
We have petroleum revenue,
yes,
which is the oil and gas revenue, yes,
and
all that.
So all of the revenue combined.
Yes, all of the revenues, with the exception of stabilization fund. Okay, because stabilization fund, you go for it when there is a problem. Okay, and that's what they did during the COVID period.
Right.
So you add that, that's another 300 million.
Right.
Now, just add this bit. This is very important. We need to, the debts or the money that this government has contracted in debt is also 500 billion now. Because they said they made the debt in 120, now they've taken it over 600. So 500 billion, when you add it all together, the money that has come into this government hand, in terms of revenue and the debt they have raised, is 1 trillion, over 1 trillion Ghana cedis, compared to NDC, which is actually 200 billion. NDC, all the revenues, same revenues. We have 200 billion because it was 90.5 billion. If you add the debt, and this one you add the debt is 120 or 122, depends on whoever you talk to. You add the 120 to the 90.5 billion, which is the revenue. That's 200 billion. So we are looking at 200 billion against 1 trillion. All the things that John Mahama did, all the things that the NDC did were done with 200 billion. What has the MPP used over 1 trillion cedis of revenue and debt? What okay. Has Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia
Dr. Moise, all right. Dr. Moise, let me come back to you.
Interesting. I think the advice that I give right now, my senior brother hasn't taken it. And it's very dangerous. You see, boss, let's try and build this country, not based on our sentimental wishes, our group interests, or individual interests. Of course, we need to do politics. I agree with you. What you're saying. There are a lot of things you said here. I'm even shocked. But
look,
analyzing all this, I was expecting him to have said that I've done this research. I would have done that. 500 billion. You look at the area of infrastructure. This much is committed to it. We did this amount or number of infrastructural works as against MPP's government. We use less amount. They use this amount in the area of social intervention policies, in the area of servicing our debt that were accumulated. Or say we know that you are not doing politics. Because you remember even the overhead, they call interchange. I'll try and get to the figure because I don't have it here. He knows one interchange and another. Just a few dollars would have been actually catered for 4 or 5 that they did. In terms of project wastage, project inflation, like you are inflating figures. I don't want to. If we want to compare these things, I will be very much surprised. Look, 1D1F alone, over 200 companies are operational. I won't say it is enough to solve our problems because unemployment is still on the ascendancy. We are still importing. About 170,000 people have gotten jobs under 1D1F. So if you raise issues that it hasn't been the best, yes. I always have my own issues with how policies are actually designed and implemented in Ghana. That's my personal view. I think one of the challenges is that, my brother, we need to do what is called pre-design and then pre-definition of the value chains of our policies. I don't know whether they do, whether A or B. Before, in the developed economies, policies are implemented. They will design everything. So it'll be like do it yourself, including the expected revenue generation, expected jobs, the possible risks that we are likely to encounter. They will do all those things. Everything. And they can sometimes even do what is called policy drill to test it before they go out. So there are things we can improve as a country if we are very serious. And one thing that we also need to look at is meritocracy. Whether even after having fine policies, having fine programs, who is in charge of what segment along the value chain? Because my illiterate mother at home, my mom can't speak English. My mother can do something that I can't do. Where you are sitting. Yes, I have a PhD in actuarial science, finance, macroeconomics, mathematics. These are my areas. It doesn't mean that what you can do, I can do. Where you are sitting. If they place me there, I will fail. So there are issues fundamentally we can all raise as a country. But you need to even appreciate this government, not acknowledge what he's done and praise the government. But maybe ABC could have done well. Because for you to even list all the good policies, industrialization, this, that, it means this government has done so much well. But probably not to the level that you think would have solved our problem. Then somebody would say that, okay, what about you? You had Okada policy. Now you're talking about 24-hour. You look at all these policies. Whether they are even policies that honestly, practically, will solve the problems of this country. This is where I don't want to argue. One of the things I've realized myself is that we are running what I describe as a negative effective tax rate economy that we need to work on. It doesn't matter who is in government. And what I mean, negative effective tax rate economy is that all governments, even without a COVID issue, amount of money, total amount of money that we outlay every year, we expend every year. If we divide that amount among all the households in Ghana, I mean revenue, not loans, and each house, maybe your house gets $10 Ghana cedis. The amount of money the government generates, revenue generation, not without loans. If we divide the same amount by the houses in Ghana, each house will get amount less than the money each house got from the expenditure. So we are running a ritual deficit. How can we solve that problem? We need to sit down, think, design models, sit down frameworks, and have very strong fundamentals that this country can depend on, like those resilient economies. So even when there is hardship, we know how to manage our things. You see, let me give you this example. When if we call something high out, I've forgotten, but it's a term that shows that an issuer of a bond is not in a position to pay, which happened to Ghana. It happened to UK, Uruguay, Jamaica, all of them. So they all went through this exchange, which was one of the best.
What were you trying to remember?
Come on,
so if you are not able to, you are
it's
sure
hold
you
out, hold out. The term is hold out in finance or economy. It's called hold out.
you have defaulted.
No,
Don't
that you
put it in
cannot.
any
And the situation
beautiful
might not
language.
necessarily mean you could not do it. So this is the best way to go out. Oh, you are making me even forget what I wanted to say. You've got me out of what I wanted
You
to
said
say.
other countries, Uruguay.
Yeah, but I was
Jamaica,
explaining
have
something
gone
before.
out.
This were just, in law, they say puff or puff. It wasn't the...
Have
the
gone out.
serious-
And I
yeah.
want you to
So the point,
finish on that point so that we can.
the
quickly
point I was trying
move
to
on
make,
our
I
next-
forgot
our
it, but
next
what I
subject.
wanted to come to is that
Yes.
only 2 million people out of our 32 million people pay direct tax in Ghana. 2 million. And then when it comes to the indirect tax, we have a lot of problems with leakages. Look, I'm sure Ghanaians saying that we need to expand the tax base. You were not even born. We've been saying this for about 30, 40 years. Am I lying? Why are we still having the problem? So this is where I want to get to now in Ghana.
Right.
Now we've been saying all this. What do we do? Now we have artisans. The artisan that did my kitchen in Kumasi, this is about six and a half years ago, took almost 100,000, honestly, my kitchen alone. How much tax did he pay? I'm sure they've done work for you as well. How do we build a very efficient, correct database of all artisans and develop a network between, because something, policy boundary factors between trade industry, between employment, whatever, and between statistical services, and then finance ministry. So we can develop a system that even you employ the person based on the fact that he has certain specific code, he's registered, that one he can be sure of efficiency, effectiveness, you can be sure of avoiding
So that we
robbery
can
or
open the
stealing.
tax
Then,
net.
so exactly. So we should start thinking. Then you
Right.
see guys, they have strong guys. And you have strong guys. Can we come to the point that we can have mercy? When I say this, people go and cut this aspect. They float it on social media, and people who do not know even the basis,
Well,
they will attack me. But
anyway.
the point that I'm making is that I want to end by this.
And we have to quickly move because
I want to
we
let
don't
my
have time. We
brother
have to
understand that.
quickly move to the next issue.
When we say production economy, it didn't mean we're not going to pay taxes. This lies they tell about
No,
Dr.
nobody,
Bawumia. They
nobody
should
thought
stop.
that. Nobody thought that.
They use that as if His Excellency Dr. Bawumia
mean,
said we shouldn't pay taxes.
No,
No.
don't have this
What he
conversation
meant
with
was,
me.
no.
Don't have this. You
It's
know,
not
me,
only
you and I.
boss. It's
Don't
not
have,
only
you know,
you.
I will not.
But you made mention of tax.
Yeah, I said, I did.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
So they give impression to the public that, oh, we meant we're not going to take tax. That is not true. What he meant was, for instance, we have only 2 million people pay taxes. If we're able to industrialize this country very well, a lot of people will get work to do. So the taxes will not be the way it is that we are suffering. Now people change the meaning of that. But what he said was 100% true. Lastly, can't we accept the fact that taxes are assessed, introduced, reduced, taken away based on the stage of the definitional elements of the fiscal space? Can we take, look, when I meet somebody like him, I want us to do this honest thing for Ghanaians.
All right.
That taxes, look, I mean, between 3 years, their own budget statement, 26, 2014, 15, 16, go and check. 26. So if you want to go by that, those raw statements, just because of politics, not raw that they are bad, sorry if the word is bad, we don't want to be kind of honest with issues, and because Ghanaians, some of them do not understand these technicalities and the mechanizations of all these financial economic stuff, one power in one position, oh, you are not supposed to pay tax. It's like telling your child that don't take kuni, it's better. Your mom is saying that, your dad is saying take. You not take, you will die. Or you take and then improve upon your health.
All right.
The point is,
Very well.
we should be able to analyze the fiscal space. Then we can advise whether we need to increase tax. And that's what MPP government will do.
I think
Yes,
you made
that's
a
why
point.
we do that.
Because of
No,
time,
no,
we need to move on.
He said something I need to correct.
Because
It
of
will not
time,
be fair
we have
if I
just
don't
we
correct.
have just about
No.
5 minutes.
No.
We have just about 5 minutes. So I
give
want
me
us
2
to
minutes.
quickly touch on the issue
I
of the
need to
passage
respond to this very
of the
quickly.
family values
I need to
bill,
respond to
and
this.
then we wrap it
It's
up.
actually an information I need to share with him as well.
All right. I mean, just a minute.
All right.
Just
As
a
a
minute.
researcher that I am, all the things that you are talking about, I have done it. This is what NDC has used the 200 billion to do.
And MPP too.
MPP, that's why I'm inviting you now.
But you're able to find the money. No.
Hold on.
If you do that, you're not being fair with the situation.
You are taking my time.
Now you're able to
Hold
state
on.
NDC's money, MPP's money. You are stating what NDC did. State what MPP do, so we can find the differences.
Yes.
Hold on.
Because
Yeah,
I think
honorable.
in terms of infrastructure, we don't far better than NDC. In terms of social transition policy, we don't far better than them.
Dr.
So
Amar, please
bring
allow.
Don't take
Dr.
my
Amar,
time.
please
No,
allow.
no,
Please
no,
allow
no,
honorable.
you cannot
honorable
you
Rikete
cannot
to make the point.
have
all day
baked
because
cake
we
for
have
us to
done
eat.
this. NDC has done this already in its
So
greedy.
don't bring.
I'm
Don't state the
inviting
money.
you
No.
that I have a
No,
list
don't state the money.
of things you claim
So
you
why
have done.
didn't you invite me to state the money we've borrowed?
I'm inviting you now.
No. Why
You were
didn't
here,
you
we're
invite
talking
me?
together.
You had
I don't have to
no,
invite
you're
you.
not being fair.
He's the
No.
host.
Ghanaians are watching us.
Okay, now I'm inviting you.
What I'm saying is,
I
no.
said,
What I'm saying is,
to
you're
me,
not-
what
Well, look,
NPP has
you
used.
go and do your work,
one,
and sit here,
and then we'll sit down and then we
What
can
are
have
you
a
talking-
debate.
So you shouldn't have stated that. When you state, no, you've done a good job. If it's true, you state
That's
NDC.
here.
No, you state
I
NDC's
can-
money.
what
Whether
we've
it's
done.
true or not, I
Look,
don't even know whether
factories,
it's true.
water and sanitation.
What
That is
was-
why you have
what's
to
your
All
challenge
right,
me.
all right, gentlemen. Let's make
Well,
progress.
let's-
Let's make
what's
progress.
your
I think you've
We
made a
have
point.
it in our
So
agreement.
why
Honorable
all the
Rikete
data
Hagan,
for MPP? Because MPP does
Dr.
better
Amar,
do that for you.
than
Dr. Amar and
white.
Honorable
Because
Hagan,
if you
I
know-
think you made a point.
Respectfully, you
Let's
know.
make progress. Let's move
You
on.
know.
MPP has
So
done it.
last week you passed
$1 trillion.
the family values bill, the proper the human sexual
yeah.
rights and Ghanaian family values bill. It's finally been passed, but there has been a lot of stiff opposition to the passage of that bill. There have been commentary from the World Bank, from the U.S. State Department, from certain civil society organizations, Amnesty International, and all of that, who are praying the president not to assent to the bill. And even if that were to happen, they would go to court because they believe that fundamentally there is a problem with regard to safeguarding the rights that certain individuals have. I mean, from where you sit in Parliament, I believe it was passed unanimously because when the Speaker put the question, I didn't hear anyone say no.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So you don't even know where the noise is coming from, whether it's coming from inside Parliament as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because people have had an opportunity to debate this thoroughly, make all the necessary changes and all that. Look, this is simple. Things are being introduced to our society, which is not a norm for Ghanaians. It is not our culture. I mean, why we are having all this problem is that the president has not, and even the vice president, they've not been able to state clearly what their position on this matter is.
I think the president is on record to have stated his position,
That-
to certain
that-
clergymen and all of that.
that-
It's not under his watch that, same-sex marriage and all of that is going to be legalized.
Well, then you should
The
assent,
president is on
you
record
should assent to the
have
bill.
said that.
You should assent to the bill.
Well,
It's
probably
simple.
he's not got into
and
it yet.
and it's simple because when you listen to President Mills, may God bless his soul, if you remember, he made a clear statement when David Cameron, who was then the Prime Minister of the UK, made an issue about this. He made it clear that David Cameron cannot impose their norms on us, same way as we cannot impose what we think is our norms on them. And that if it's for that reason that they are going to starve us of these donor monies and all that we are getting, which we should have been able to wean ourselves of, at one stage we had Ghana beyond aid, but we are still in aid, that we should not, then we will refuse that kind of assistance. I think that was clear.
Mm-hmm.
If at that time we were able to, progress any bill to His Excellency Atta Mills, you can be rest assured what his position is going to be, and it will be assented to. President Mahama has come out, time without number, to say that I'm a Christian. I don't believe in this, and I don't accept it. If such a bill gets to President Mahama, you know that he will assent to the bill.
Mm-hmm.
Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia, His Excellencies, have not made their position clear. And for that matter, there seems to be a gap between Parliament and the executive on this matter.
But how has the president not made his position clear?
Well, I've
just told you.
I have not heard the
Hagan,
president's position
but
on
the president
this clearly.
speaking to
He said
the
he
clergy.
was talking to
Yes,
a clergy.
he was talking to the clergy, and he said it is not under his watch that
Well,
same-sex
what
marriage is going to be legalized or allowed. So the president said it.
From Atta Mills.
And we know that Vice President Bawumia is a Muslim. Obviously, Islam abhors, the activities of the LGBTQI
let's make
community.
assumptions.
And the man who's at the helm of affairs
You've got to come,
has stated clearly his
and the
position
guy who was
on
to
it.
be the next president.
So what is your apprehension
the
about
guy who
the
was to be
president
the
not
next
wanting
president,
to sign
who
the-
is a
the
Muslim,
bill?
should come out and be a defender of Muslims, and not hide behind the idea that you are proposing that he is a Muslim, so it should be assumed. Don't make assumptions.
But I don't-
Not here in this
But has
Ghana.
an occasion risen for him to, want to give his
What
position
occasion?
on
He's
it?
been campaigning around the country. What occasion does he need? President Mahama was at a service or somewhere when this question came up. He answered it.
Yeah. But it's not come up for Dr. Bawumia, has it? When it
President
came up for
Mills-
President Akufo-Addo, he answered.
Well, President Mills confronted the same issue when David Cameron made some issue about it. He came out, confronted the issue. There are people that, as you said, there are a lot of talking on both sides, different school of thought on this issue.
Yes.
So somebody who wants to be the next president of Ghana should come and tell us categorically, clearly, that this is my position. You've got to take a position. In the United States, you are either for abortion or you are not. You cannot say you are in the middle. That's where we know the Republicans are against abortion. Democrats are not against abortion per se, maybe limited. So, and this is one of those issues that we need to be able to confront it head on. Uganda took a decision. It went to their parliament. The president took no time, in ascending to the bill. I had the discussions there because I have some links over there. Here, it's like a few people who have taken this up and doing it for the country. But the people who hold the key to this country, we don't know where they stand. And you're telling me that he met some clergies. President Nana Akufo-Addo doesn't need to meet any clergies and anyone now. The bill is in front of him, assent, so we know what your position is. Period.
Are you confident he will?
Well, how can I be? The way he's flip-flopping, the way he is behaving like he doesn't want to talk about it, the way Bawumia is assumed to be a Muslim and therefore is against it, but not saying it. Anything at all can happen in this country. Have you seen bills haven't gone to the bills have gone to the presidency? He's a minister, he needs to go and work. Bills have gone to the presidency where the bills actually got lost in a way. Didn't you hear that? How can that happen? No, the people belittle the intelligence of Ghanaians. And then we all sit down and watch and accept it. That is where we are today. Because we are not able to stand up to what we believe in. We are not able to stand up to those who are doing wrong. Thinking that if you are in parliament and you are in a government party, you are waiting for your ministerial position, therefore you have to keep your mouth shut. You even go and say you want to sack somebody and they say, no, we will do that later. And you sit back. When you are voting against something or you are voting for something that you don't believe in, you go ahead like a head because that's what you've been instructed to do. He has said so much on that issue. Of course, I know his position. He's in the government. He's been given a position. He tries to see. No. Hold on.
No.
I didn't say you are discussing.
But the way you are stating it,
No. You have
don't take care,
it's
it's like,
but let's listen to what I'm saying.
You know,
I'm saying
you don't have any
I get your
motive.
point.
Yes, the way you were started,
but just,
as if you and I,
we have not.
That.
Let me put it on record. Dareen. I'm just saying that he is in government. We know that every now and then he speaks his mind. But when you are in government, and not him, generally, there's a limit to which some people can't speak or choose not to speak. So, it's like we are caught in some, that we are not able to do the right thing, even when we know what the right thing is. And I think that's the point he's been making here. I'm not talking about his position or anything.
LGBT.
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
I think.
You believe the president will sign?
Do I believe?
Yes. That the president will sign the
What
bill.
I know is that we are in a democratic dispensation. We have laws. The supreme one is the Constitution. I think Article 106 plainly tells us that it is the Parliament, as part of separations of powers and what they do. We make laws or bills, and the bills are assented to by the president for exercise. The same Constitution, Article 1, talks about sovereignty of Ghana. It says that the sovereignty of Ghana is in the
people.
The people.
Yes.
And for their interest. And for that matter, the power of any government or the government has to be exercised in the interest of the people. That means that the president have to engage broader consultation. And that's why I agree to what the president is doing. Because we are here today, I detest that thing. God forbid that myself or any child of mine will get involved. I'm sure my brother too. But let's also understand the fact that we are 32 million people. Other people also have their views on the same thing. I detest weed smoking. I detest even respectfully beating a woman. I'm a human being. I can make mistake eating weed. I can make mistake beating a woman or something, but I detest. I wouldn't want to. The question is it just 7 years that we have problems with this unfortunate antisocial behavior? No. Me, I came to live in Accra permanently or whatever. Is it for now that I live in Accra? Not that I don't go to Kumasi. I'm from Kumasi, of course. I think 2007. Yes, 2007. Okay? When I was at KN University, between 2000 and 2004, sometimes I used to come to Accra here. I have a friend. He's called Kwejo. He's a very good person, but he likes fun. Me going out is not too much of the way I am. We went to a place, Osu here. I was shocked because I knew in school they were talking about sodomy, men. I heard them in an abstract manner. But guys
You hadn't really
were
seen
publicly demonstrating. This is about 20 years ago. The point I'm making is that if you want to get political capital out of it, then somebody will ask you, NDC government of fraternity has enjoyed this country's leadership or mandate more than any other political fraternity. What did you do? This is where I'm trying hard not to go there. I'm trying so hard not to go there. But when you push so much, then you also want the president to act unconstitutionally. Because the same constitution says that the power, which of course encapsulate the decisions, actions, and inactions of the same president or the government, has to be done in terms of exercising our sovereignty as a country in the interest of the people. Now we have a section of Ghanaians also going against the president that he shouldn't sign.
But if the president
I hope you understand what I'm
signs,
saying.
will it be unconstitutional? It will be constitutional if the
what I'm
president
saying, you're not
signs.
getting it.
Wouldn't
Okay, a section of Ghanaians are also saying no. So I'm not saying the president should sign or he shouldn't sign. But the president being law-abiding and father for all says that, if what he's saying is true or what people are saying is true, because the president hasn't spoken to me personally. So what is in the public domain that they are saying is true? It's a president engaging the clergy, which is an extremely integral part of our democracy, engaging other stakeholder groups and institutions. There you can say that the president understands democracy deeper and more. He's not perfect. So I think I agree to those who are saying that, let's get this thing done to prevent any future escalation of this socially unacceptable, aberrant behaviors. But in doing so, if you want to derive political capital out of it, then you position me politically to also go opposite. And this is what my brother from the NDC, they are doing that. I'm not happy about it. I am for anything that will stop that. Why will I see my daughter that one day she's wedding another woman? I may collapse, honestly. Me what will happen to me. I may collapse, honestly. I may collapse, honestly. And thank God, I know by the grace of God it will never happen. But if it will never happen or happen, today, God has placed me in a position to be part of those who are fighting against the escalation of this wicked devil behavior. But somebody doesn't see that as devil and wicked. That is him. I cannot condemn him too much. You also have other negative style. But we are fighting to put proactive measures, contingency measures in place so that our society will be free totally from that and save the generation coming. I support 100%.
So that's why
Parliament. But if you want to, yes, and that's why we are all part of. That's why we are all part of it.
Yeah.
But for somebody to make it political, for somebody to make it political, and want somebody to be painted as evil, because that person is not in government to assent or sign, because there are consequences, whether we like it or not. These are factual. That one, then you also position us in a way to go opposite you, not because we like it. Because if you say president signed today, I also say that the Constitution, which is the supreme, that if there are any laws, I'm not saying this one is contravening the Constitution, but if you read the Article 2, Clause 1, it talks about also the fact that the Constitution is supreme, and that if there is any other law which conflicts or in contravention with the Constitution, to the extent of that inconsistency, will be void.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the same Constitution which is supreme is telling us that the president, in exercising his power as a government, has to do so in the interest of Ghanaians. So there's this thing that we all need to manage it well. As much as I agree to my brother what we are doing, we should also look at the fact that we are operating a constitution that respects all Ghanaians. It doesn't matter one social stratum along the social stratification. You don't have to see yourself alone, that because media this. No. Let's all be very careful. You can, because you think you can deceive some of the Ghanaians, you think they are gullible because of power and votes. You want to do all this.
So essentially, you see the other side is trying to politicize this
that is my
to
problem.
make it look as though
why didn't the NDC do all this and sign all this before exiting? Why? So let's not think it's so easy.
Well, I mean,
You understand what
the
I'm saying?
private members bill was
It came as
initiated
a-
by
it-
an
it's a
NDC member of
private members
parliament.
bill.
He was a lead sponsor of the bill.
Yeah,
I mean,
with-
an
with the
NDC member of
PPP.
So what
parliament.
happened?
Well,
No,
now it's been
but I'm
passed.
saying that when they were in government, why didn't they push that thing? They had the numbers, everything.
Well,
they would
I
have
don't-
signed.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So
The
what
bill
I'm
wasn't
saying
there.
is that let us all find a means to get this thing done if it will help us as a country. But let us also be very careful. The way we want to demonize the weaknesses of other people.
Okay.
That is me. I can have my discretion, my exclusive right to see something as evil. That is to myself. To me, it doesn't mean that you are doing your evil. That is you. Then we have a society. Let's prevent it because elsewhere we have a custom.
And
We
that's
are
exactly
God's
what the
country.
bill
Me,
is
I
supposed
believe
to
in
do.
God. I'm not holy, but
Yes.
everybody knows that I pray a lot. Me without God, I'm nothing. Me as I'm here, I don't think any other power can do anything for me apart from God. I don't say they are not existing. So me, humbly, it's Nyame Adom. But Nyame Adom doesn't mean that I should look at somebody who worship idol and say that you are this, you are that, you are... No, I cannot. Because me, myself, by grace. But in doing that, if we are pushing the president, don't go like the president just doesn't want to do it. He's in between. Dr. Bamiya doesn't talk about it. Is that they are all politics, political arguments.
Okay.
What about the constitution where it says Article 1 and Article 2? What does it say? So the president
But if
should
there's
also
nothing
the president
constitutionally
should
barring
also
the president
should also disrespect
from-
all the others who are giving opinion, diverse views, so that we can quietly harmonize.
But is that not the reason
interest
why
and the relationship
but
of all
Dr.
these
Amma, is
people?
that not the reason why the bill goes through a very meticulous
Exactly.
process before it gets to the point where
So
it is
then-
passed? And
then-
there's a first reason, there's a second reason, there's a third reason. I mean, when
Okay.
it is introduced, it goes to the committee. The committee opens the floor for opposing views to come and tell the reason why this bill should not. Those who are for it. So it goes through and comes back to Parliament, for a second reading. There's a bit of a debate. It goes back to the committee.
It's gone
A
through
very rigorous process
Thank you.
before it gets to the front of the president.
So
that all
then-
the constitutional issues
then let us accept the fact that
are
the
dealt with.
signature or the appendage of the
Yes.
president, then from which is 100%. Thank you. I don't know. Are you a lawyer yourself, where you've gone through the processes? Thank you so much. But the point is, if that is the case, why do, in the wisdom of the framers of the same constitution, calls for the president assent?
to make
If
it
what they
law.
are saying is so enough,
Yes.
so adequate.
Well, I mean, it also says that the president
if
doesn't
it
assent.
has,
Parliament
if
can
what
look
you are
at it
saying
again
has
and use the
offered the
two-thirds
needed
to-
exhaustion,
Yes.
complete exhaustion, then why do we need this? But in the minds of the framers of the constitution, their own wisdom, then they realize that, the process, as you said, very meticulous or whatever. Very good. Okay. It has to go to the president. In the president exercising his powers as government, the same constitution provides legal extract. Article 1, Clause 1, talking about sovereignty of the people and their interests. And in exercising the powers of the government, you need to consider these things.
Yes. But
And
is
the
it-
same constitution
but
I'm talking
Dr.
about
Amma,
is the supreme.
But based on what
No,
you are
it's
saying,
the supreme,
I'm
it's the
curious to
apex.
know,
And he's saying that if he-
isn't it? Would it then not be in the interest of the people for the president to assent to it? Because Parliament, you are representatives of the people. You represent the views of Inshaeso. He represents the views of the people in Cape Coast. And so collectively, the 275 of you represent the views of the people. So if the president is supposed to act in the interest of the people, and this is before him,
No, what you're
isn't
saying,
it a no-brainer for him
honest,
to
I
sign
really
it?
like
Because
this one. When
this
my
is the
brother is
views.
saying, what you have,
This is the view
then,
of the
then-
people.
no, it's 100%.
Right.
So then I think it should have ended at the parliament.
Because then again, if the president doesn't assent to it,
if listen, the constitution does not state that the president shall, or does not. I haven't checked that. I'll check. It doesn't force the president. Whether
No,
he
it
likes
doesn't
to
force
do
him
it.
to sign. He can decide not to sign and
So-
add reasons
A reason,
and
thank
send it
you.
back to Parliament.
So in doing that, that is where there's another provision.
Okay.
You see the way the law operates.
Yeah.
It's very fantastic.
Yeah. Then there can be a 2/3 passage.
There could be
and
other.
it has to go back to the
what-
president.
no
He
matter
has
what
no
is
option
and
than
also
to
there
sign.
could be other relevant section or relevant stakeholder groups Now they've started talking. Can the president say, shut up, assign? No. If you're a good father, if you're a good leader, if you are law-abiding, if you respect the constitution, the supremacy of it, and you respect the sovereignty of Ghanaians, which lies within the people themselves. When we say Ghanaians, it is a universal asset. Every element, like you are Ghanaian. So the constitution did not give a section.
All 32 million of us.
Exactly.
Right.
So maybe the president cannot do all anyway.
Right.
But the president is trying to do much exhaustion as possible.
Okay.
So that whether he signs or not, people will know that, the president did not act out of arbitrariness.
Okay.
But when we did the stipulate of the legal framework,
all right, yes.
I think we need to understand.
The interesting observation was the speed at which the president assigned to the e-levy. I know the e-levy probably not the same as this bill we are talking about, but the speed, I think it was just done the next day. I mean, did the president go through all that process that my brother has just described on the consultations, and it was done with the speed of light? But this needed to be done, at a bicycle.
But it's not before has the bill gotten to the president yet?
Well, it has.
You are sure?
Well, once we
that
have
the
done
bill
with
is in front of the president
once
now?
we have done with it.
I mean, because we know that with some other bills, the speaker, for example, was so angry that the president hadn't assented to it earlier, and it emerged that the bill actually got to the president on the same day that the speper was angry about it. So we need to be sure about the time that the bill gets to the president.
It's quite interesting because at least I know the processes that it goes through to get to the presidency.
Yes.
I mean, we've been in government before. And it's not a cumbersome process at all. I mean, once we are done and whatever needs to be done by the parliamentary, it goes straight. I mean, from here to the Jubilee House or the Flagstaff House, I think it's just an Uber ride. And it should be there. But let's wait for what my brother is saying, the consultation that the president needs to do. Every day will come to an end.
Very well. We'll have to wrap up the breakfast review discussion here. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here in the studio. Dr. Stephen Amwa has been my guest in the studio. Dr. Stephen Amwa is Member of Parliament for Inshayesu constituency, and he is also the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio. Also, Kwekuri Ketegan